Okay, so let's talk about your birth orders and the characteristics that you think you have.
Well, I'm from my mom, so I uh, third child, so
How many siblings do you have?
I have including I have four sisters and a brother, so five, six of us.
Okay. And you're the third child.
I'm a third child.
What are some of the characteristics that you see in yourself as a middle child?
Well, for sure, I'm not a lead. I'm not a leader type of person. I kind of lay back and watch everybody do their thing.
Okay.
So
Do you ever feel jealous of your brothers and sisters, or older brothers and sisters and younger brothers and sisters? Do you ever feel jealous of them?
no, because there's just too many of us.
Okay.
I don't ever think that I'm jealous one over another because my parents love this one more or that one more. So it just
Do
the way it
you
is.
feel that your parents love a different person more in your siblings than you?
Yeah, I do.
Do you?
So that way I'm always closer to my dad than my mom because my mom kind of watch all over my little sister and my brothers and them, and so I'm kind of closer to my dad. Wherever he go, I'm going with him. Wherever he do.
So you feel that your mom had more attention, like gave more attention to your older brother, and then your younger sister, but kind of left you in the middle.
Yes.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. All right. Do you have anything you want to add? Okay. All right. All right. Nick, you want to go next?
Sure.
Okay.
What question am I supposed to answer?
So you could tell us your name, how old you are, and like what birth order you are, and then some of the characteristics about you and the birth order that you think it's because of that birth order that make you who you are.
Okay. So, my name is Nick. I'm 25 years old. I am the second born child. And some characteristics that I have.
That you think it's related to because of your birth orders.
Kind of the directionlessness that you were mentioning before. Like, there are many things that I want to do, but I don't know if I truly want to do it or if I really want to like invest a ton of into what I think I want to do. What else is there to talk about? Also, kind of an indifference
Okay.
to like a lot of things, because I don't know. I just feel like I'm indifferent to a lot of things that happen.
Do you ever feel hurt that your parents pay attention more to your big brother and your little brothers and kind of left you?
Probably early on when I was younger, but like as I grew up, I think that's where my indifference comes from. I just kind of caught on. It's like, okay, so that's a thing that's gonna happen, so I'm just gonna be indifferent to it, and then it just kind of one of those things that kind of grew into like a lot of things. It's like, well, it's the way that's just the way it happens. So
Okay. So you're also a middle child. You got an older brother and you got two younger brothers.
yes,
All right. Anything else you want to add?
not that I can think about at the moment.
Any other character else you want to add because of your birth orders that make you who you are? Anything else?
I guess my tendency in groups to fill in the gap, right? So in groups, I don't necessarily declare a certain role. I'll just go like, well, whatever you guys want to do, I'll just take whatever's left. So like whenever I'm in a group, it's like, all right. And yeah, sometimes that leaves me with like kind of shittier roles, but I'm okay with that sometimes. But
Okay. So do you
start to follow, but I will put in my 2 cents, I guess, and I will put in my input when it comes to groups.
since you're the baby, do you think that your opinions count in your family group decision making?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Because I have a lot more observation of everyone else's mistakes. So I'm able to observe a lot more because I am the youngest.
One day I'll use this, but it's 5 years old and they don't fit me anymore, but I still keep them. And I guess that's just kind of a generation thing that kind of came from them, as they were poor and clothes that they kind of had, they always kind of kept. And that kind of translated over to me. That's one of the things that I really kind of noticed.
Okay. That's a good recognition. I mean, I'm glad that you recognize that. That's a good recognition. Good point.
I think that culture is really important because what your parents doing and what you're doing is kind of
Growing things,
Okay.
like plants and things. I mean, grandma grows plants all the time, just for like, I guess it's like her hobby or something. Like they just go to the garden and grow stuff, and then mom, you do that too. It's like, we're gonna go to the garden, we're gonna go grow stuff, and then now Jeff's picking it up, and Jeff's like, I'm gonna go grow stuff. So it's like, yeah, I guess. I mean, I was probably living by myself. I'm probably like, I'm bored. I want to grow stuff.
Okay. All right. All right.
Just grow beans.
Grow beans.
You'll be growing beans.
Singular
Just
being.
a bean. Just
All right. Chatty, how about you?
I don't really know because I don't really think about things that come through generational wise because
Okay.
I don't notice them. But I guess I can see how what comes through is I guess I don't really want to say fashion, but I guess clothing sense. Like a lot of our families that we always, even back in grandma and grandpa's days, they're still sewing clothing and they're still doing things like that. And like you still do that, and you're still trying to teach me how to do that. And I kind of get like the gist of tailoring, and I kind of get the gist of sewing my own clothes, making my own stuff, but it's, I guess, I don't really notice it, but I can see how it's becoming a generational thing.
Yeah.
And I guess from a distance, we kind of have similar hobbies
Good recognition.
because, like Nick said, right, your hobbies, grandma and grandpa's hobby is growing plants and things, and you like to grow plants and things, and I like to tailor, or I like to sew clothes and stuff, and so I guess it's just like it's more or less, it's not rather hobbies, but like I guess back then necessity things like growing plants or tailoring things, because I guess we didn't have those back in the day, and it's just a sense of, oh, we need this, so we're gonna do that, and I guess that's just pushed down through generation because it's sought as a necessity, right?
Yeah.
So it's just, oh, nowadays we don't really need it, but it's still pushed down onto us because in our minds it's still a necessity to us.
That's a really good recognition because, like even now that we don't need to sew our own clothes, we still do because we're crafty. We're a very crafty family. And so, yeah, all of your aunts, they sew, right? They're able to sew. And so is grandma, so is grandpa, so is uncle. So, yeah, you're right. Good, John. Good recognition. The next question is, tell me, what do you see as a generational dysfunction that you want to change? Is there something that you see as a problem throughout the generations that you personally, if you could, you want to change, or you don't want to practice that anymore?
I think one thing that I'd like to see, it's not necessarily changed but improved upon, is the generational ideal of success, in which your grandparents and your parents tell you like go be, a high paying job and like, go spend your life, studying to become a doctor, which I mean it's if you want to do that, I think that's perfect for you. But I think finding a medium of your own happiness, if you want to spend the rest of your life being a mechanic because you like cars, even though you might not make millions of dollars, but if you're happy with that, then I think that's what you should strive for, rather than doing this unrealistic dream that you don't even want. I think that's one of the generational dysfunctions that I think is a bit different, because in the earlier generations, especially us, is because my parents grew up so poor. They were kind of they didn't have a lot of money to kind of spend on things that they wanted, and so they don't want their children to be the same way. So they want them to have a good paying job, and so they don't have the same struggles growing up. But I think happiness is measured differently now than it might have been for my parents.
Okay, good observation. That's a very good point. Anybody else?
Well, I same as Vinny, but I'm looking at certain thing that the family do. I'm not just this nuclear family, but it's like family at large. It's the culture thing that there are certain things that we can't practice anymore. I wanted to see that we let some of those go, and just because the elders say we have practiced this over hundreds of years, but it's right now it's not feasible for us to do that anymore. I would like to let something like that
Okay,
go.
so that's family rituals that are practiced over generational that is not practical to you. So that's something that you want to see let go.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. How about you, son? Vincent, Nick and Chad. Is there anything else? Do you think is there anything else that you see that's not working, or that it's considered dysfunction, or that's something that's problematic, that it's generation expectation or generation that have been practicing and that you see as a problem that you could think about that. And
I
then
think the dysfunction we have in the generation of the culture specifically, because is how we view mental illness,
okay.
is that we don't kind of address the problem, because sometimes people in the what do you call it, in the culture, I guess, we don't view mental illness as sometimes severe mental illness that need to be treated. We just kind of shun the person that has mental illness, and it's like, well, no, someone has an issue that we need to fix.
Yeah.
And sometimes it goes, no, that person is just that way because he's that way. It's like, no, there's a chemical imbalance somewhere and we need to seek help.
Good job. So that's a very good observation, and that's very true, because traditionally mental illness is used to be viewed as a spiritual issues. So they just if they treat it, just address the spiritual piece and expect you to get fixed. But if you have a condition and that condition remains, they don't really know what to do with it. So that's a very good observation. Good job. You want to add anything to that?
No, I think
and the stigma, right? So they kind of have the stigma to that person, or like just kind of like keep it to them, like isolate that person, keep it isolated. So that's good observation. How about you, son? Chatty?
I would say a really big thing that I would say something that needs to be accepted. I wouldn't say maybe change, but a lot more accepted would be like changing roles. Because I know in our culture that there are masculine things you need to do and there are feminine things you need to do. And it's just the fact that, oh, cooking is made for the feminine and masculine are usually, I guess, hunters, I guess you could say, right? You know, it's more or less, it's split off. That's one thing I don't really like about our cultural upbringing, and something we need to be, I guess, agreed upon, or instead of like being shunned, because I know that if, for example, if I like to cook and I cook at a cultural, I guess, group get together, people will shun me. Oh, that person's feminine, right? That person's girly. So they'll shun me and they'll, I guess, circle me out, and they won't talk to me as an equal. They won't talk to me as if I'm a man, right? Because
Right.
I'm a man. I'm a big burly man. Therefore, I'm going to talk to you. But in our culture, it's that, oh, you're feminine. That means you're lower than me. That means I'm not going to talk to you.
Oh.
That, honestly, I think that's really stupid to me.
Okay.
Because just because you do a certain job means you're feminine. And I guess that comes hand in hand with toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
And I think that for sure needs to be changed.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Good job. I like that too. Yeah, and I agree with you. So what do you see as a valuable family tradition that you would like to keep or like pass to your children? Like in our family, some generation traditions that we practice that you think is good that you want to pass to your kids. What is one of those?
I think something I really want to pass down is just our culture in general, because I know our culture, the Hmong language and things like that, I know it's getting a little bit bigger, but still we have to notice that we don't have a homeland to go back to. We don't have history to go back to, right? So if we die off, we die off. We don't know who they are anymore. If our language goes extinct, then there's very little to none, I guess, files to go back to and learn, right?
Correct.
So like our Suga, right? It's a spiritual thing that we hold on to, but there's a lot of Hmong people who are converting to Christianity or Catholicism, right? And we're losing more and more of our, I guess, native languages and our native cultural activities that we used to do. And like, that's one thing I really want to pass down, and that's one thing I kind of want to keep alive, because without that, then I guess that's a personality or a face that I don't have anymore. That's, I guess, it's not me anymore. If I don't have that, then I'm not a person anymore, because I'm not Chinese or Vietnamese, all right? Like, I don't want my kids to be like, I don't know what I am. And that's honestly the most heartbreaking thing, is having a person not know who they are, but they're still there. And I want them to identify themselves as something.
Good. Okay. Good job. Good point.
Oh, I want to add on to his observation here. I think that without our language or our culture, we cannot. We are not. I should say this: without our culture and language, especially the Hmong, is in the United States, the language is dying off. What they should call it, we just should call it. What's the word? But it's a disappearing language, because a lot of us, majority of our kids don't speak our language anymore. We have one in the house, and he could understand, but it's harder for him. It's kind of hard for him to speak the language, and the language is to identify who we are.
Okay. So that's
And where
something
they're
that you
coming
want to
from.
that's something that you also want to pass, like Chad said.
Yeah, I just want to keep it, and we want to make sure that kids or grandkids or great grandkids
Okay.
know how to speak.
Good point. Good point. How about you guys?
I think one thing that I kind of want to pass on to my children is the appreciation for the things that we have, because as a kid growing up, both my parents are working a lot of the time, and with the money they can scrounge up together they bought a lot of things for the family to share. And so like our first game system that they bought for all the boys. And then when I was like, I don't know, maybe around 10, 8, they bought me my first like game system that I held with my hands. Like, this one is yours. This is not your brother's. This is not your dad's. This is yours. I'm like, this one's mine. And then I kind of held on to that for like the longest time because it was mine, and I understood that my parents worked really hard for this. And it's literally just a toy. And so the best that I could, I kept it in nice condition until the day I lost it, whenever that is. But I kind of want to let my children kind of know that like my parents worked really hard for this, and so I need to take good care of this. And even nowadays, whenever I spend money on something, I go, I worked hard for this. I need to take care of this. Let me buy like my screen protectors for my devices. Let me buy a case so they don't break, because I can spend $20 to protect something that I bought for $500. $20 is nothing, because I might not have a lot of money. These luxuries that I get is hard. I just can't lose them, and that's kind of this idea that my parents instilled, because they didn't have a lot of money growing up. So whatever they kept to them really close, and because it was very valuable. And so I kind of took that from them, and hopefully I can pass that on.
That's good. Good observation. How about you, Sam?
Things that I want to see passed down is probably things like cooking, right? And family meals, because you're getting more and more of people these days that they don't cook because food is so readily accessible. They go, oh, we're just gonna eat out, and then there's places to eat out everywhere. But like I didn't know that people didn't know how to cook until I hit around college, especially because we live in a majority Southeast Asian community where like everyone cooks, right? And then you get out there and you go to I didn't find this out until I went to college. Like, yeah, no, I'm cooking. It's like, how do you cook? It's like, what do you mean? You don't know how to cook? It's like, no one ever cooked in my house. Like, what do you mean no one ever cooked in your house? Like, what do you have a kitchen for? So it's just one of those things that I want to see passed down, is